at Dorchester Dragway, just outside Charleston. It is an 1/8 mile drag strip. We're here with the Z today because we killed one of the slicks at the Memorial Monster event, and so I might as well get rid of the other two. I'm very excited about this Jeep Trackhawk and Z01 Camaro. I'm sure those will be fun. And of course some designated track cars. I don't really expect much out of the Z. There's a huge difference between drag racing slicks and road course slicks. The sidewalls are completely different, the compounds are completely different, but we're just gonna have fun. I would be super stoked with a low 8-second pass. It would be somewhere in the high 12s, low 13s. So if I could get anywhere in the low 8s, I would be thrilled. Anything under 8.5 would be a solid pass. I'd be very happy with that. For a car, but that's not really what it's designed for. So here it is all set up. Got the street tires on the front and the slicks on the back. It looks really silly, but that's what I gotta do. I'm not gonna change all 4 wheels. There's no point. It's amazing how much less stuff I have to bring to go drag racing. Just one box of my safety gear. I can get used to that. Track's going hot soon, so we'll see how the first track goes. Got some cars over here that are very loud. These guys over here making some noise. So should be a good way to spend $20. For those of you who have never gone drag racing before, it's quite simple to get started, at least. What you're gonna do is you're gonna pull your car up to the starting tree down there. It's gonna look like a traffic light. There's 2 different types of trees, but the basic premise is you have 2 little white lights at the top. You have a pre-stage, which is your first beam, and your stage light, which is your second beam. What that means is your car has broken the first beam and the second beam and is centered right in between those 2 lights, so that's where you want to start from. So everybody starts from the same spot. Once both cars are staged up, the light's going to count down, going from the top light, 3, 2, 1, lights go green, and then you floor it. There's definitely a lot to figuring out the proper launch, proper application of power. If your car doesn't have a lot of power and has pretty good tires, you can just floor it. If your car has a lot of power, like this gentleman over here, it's definitely going to be some judicious application of power, or you're just going to spin and your 60-foot time is going to be awful. Any form of motorsports, you can get extremely complicated with it. But if you just want to come out and have fun, basic premise is go up there, do a quick little baby burnout just to clean your tires off so you're not putting crap on the track, line up, and run. If you've never been to one before, take your time, spend a little bit of time watching what everybody else does, do a few kind of practice runs in your head, watching other people, making sure you don't do something that pisses other people off. Really don't want to piss off the regulars. But I'm really excited to see some of these guys run. It's going to be very loud, which who doesn't love that? So it's a great way to kind of dip your toe into motorsport, see what you like. Some people like drag racing, some people like autocross, some people like road racing. So go out and try it. It's a great way to spend, a few hours on a Friday or Saturday night. It's cheap, and as long as you're not crazy, it's pretty easy to go home on your car. So it's easy to say that drag racing didn't exactly go as planned. When I got back to the pits, I looked around the car, I checked the top and bottom. There's really nothing that I could see that was out of place, and like a lot of you, my first thought was rod knock. It sounded like rod knock. It got worse with the revs, but it also kind of sounded like maybe it was just something rattling, but I couldn't see anything. I couldn't figure out what it was. And if it was rod knock, the engine was already going to need to be rebuilt or maybe even replaced, depending on if it ruined the crank and any number of other things. So I decided it was close enough to home that I was going to limp the car home. I went nice and easy, and all of a sudden something weird happened about halfway to my house. The noise went away. For those of you who know, rod knock does not go away until you fix it. It was running a little rough at different places on the way home, but the noise went away, which was really weird to me. So parked it in the garage, started looking up the cost of a rebuild. The next weekend, I drained the oil just to look for bearing material to make sure that that was actually what the problem was. The oil looked great. It had only been through one track weekend and the drag racing, so it really didn't have that many miles on it. I saw no abnormal bearing material or shimmering in the oil. There was nothing on the magnetic drain plug. And then I started thinking, what did I change to the car? Well, I put on those new engine mounts, and lo and behold, one of the nuts that held the engine mount on had wiggled off, and when it backed off just enough to make a gap, the engine was rattling and tapping that nut against the subframe. And the noise going away was that nut falling off completely, and it's on the side of the road somewhere. So luckily, a $1,000 problem had turned into a $3 problem, where all I had to do was buy a new M12 nut and make sure this time that I used a Locktite on all of the nuts. The best pass I was able to manage before I had the issue was an 8.9. I definitely think it had an 8.5 in it. I was just having a little trouble getting the launch just perfect. The road course slicks would hook up okay, but I couldn't apply power as much as I wanted to. An 8.9 translates to about a 13.9, somewhere in that range, so it was still a pretty quick pass, especially for someone who is not very good at drag racing. I've been drag racing like 3 or 4 times and never before on those tires. So luckily the story did have a happy ending. I got the new nuts on there, I got the Locktite on, and I haven't had a problem since then. I drove the car all the way to Atlanta and back without issue, but I discovered a new problem, and it's an easy fix again. The O2 sensors are starting to go out, or at least need to be cleaned. That's why the engine cut out at the end of that run. When the car was coming back down to idle and all of the AFRs were changing, the engine just cut out, and I had some O2 codes, but I thought it was a little weird and thought it was maybe from the rod knock just causing some other problems. But I don't have rod knock, I just have O2 sensors that are going bad. So we'll get those swapped out, or at least cleaned, and we'll see if that fixes the problem. But for the most part, the car is okay. I'll be honest, I was getting a little excited about an engine rebuild, but I am even more excited that I don't have to spend $1,000. Got a lot of good stuff coming up. I'm starting to get some sponsors to come on board, so check out my Instagram for that. Hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next week.